Video for the Chapter 8 test redo. Make sure you show your work on all the problems. Any work that I put on here, I'm not doing every problem. I'm not going to do the whole problem for you every time, but I will show you how to start it. And if you want to redo it, I'll add points to one of your test grades. So this is up to you to watch this video and to put stuff on there. Problem number one, find the sum of the measures of the interior angles of a convex 36gon. So we got a 36gon. You're going to use this formula. N minus 2 times 180, where N stands for the number of sides. And they just want the sum of all the angles, so that's all you have to do. Just find that answer. Number two. Number 2 says, if the measure of each interior angle of a regular polygon is 176, then find the number of sides on the polygon. So it says each interior angle. So we're going to use the formula that talks about each interior angle. So each interior, and that formula is N minus 2 times 180 divided by N. You could use that formula, and you're going to stick the 176 right in here. And then you have to solve that. If you didn't want to use that, then you could find each exterior angle by subtracting from 180. So 180 minus 176, which is 4, and then use each exterior angle. The each exterior angle formula is 360 divided by N. You're going to put this answer that you got right here in place of that and then solve that. Don't put it in place of N. Number 3. A convex octagon has interior angles with the measure of, and they list a bunch of angles there. They want you to find X. Find X. So if we drew an octagon, sorry, my octagon doesn't look real good. It's supposed to be, it's good enough though. We could put in each angle. The first angle is X plus 55. We could write all those in. I'm not going to write all those angles in all these places, but you could. And what you're going to end up doing is adding all those up. Well, before you can add them up and set them equal to anything, you need to know what all the angles of an octagon add up to equal. So use N minus 2 times 180. In place of N, an octagon has 8 sides, so we're going to stick in 8 minus 2 times 180. And you figure out what that gives you. And then when you add up all these X's and regular numbers, make a big long equation, and it's going to equal whatever this answer right here was. And then you solve for X, and all they wanted in that case was X. Next one, number 4. Number 4, they give you a picture. It looks something like this. They tell you it's a parallelogram. Got those. This is angle 1. This is angle 2. They tell you that angle 1 is X plus 25. And angle 2 is 2X. Well, those angles are alternate interior angles, so they have to be congruent. So X plus 25 has to equal 2X. You solve for X, figure out whatever X is, but then you got to be careful. They said find the measure of angle 2. Well, they told you the measure of angle 2 was 2 times X. So once you get X, you plug it in there, and that's going to give the answer that they want out on the blank, what the measure of angle 2 is. Next one, number 5. Says, if the measure of angle A is 63 in a parallelogram, in parallelogram ABCD, find the measure of angle B. First thing you got to do is draw the parallelogram, and then label it A, B, C, D. They said angle A is 63 degrees. Well, we know opposite angles are equal to each other, congruent to each other, but then you need to know, what do you know about consecutive angles? They're not equal to each other. And whatever, figure out what that rule is, and then that'll help you find angle B. Not congruent to each other. Number 6, find the measure of each exterior angle of a regular 100-gon. Well, the formula for each exterior angle is 360 divided by n, where n is the number of sides. Well, they told us we had 100-gon. So all you're going to do is take that 100, stick it in there, figure out what that equals, and that's your answer. Next, number 7. Number 7, they want you to use the slope formula to find or to show if this was a parallelogram or not. First thing you need to do is graph it. A lot of you are still graphing things wrong. The first point we graph is 5, 7. Remember, the X tells you to move left or right. Left or right. The Y, the 7, the Y tells you how to move up or down. So you got to know that. So we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 7. It's going to end up somewhere up in here. Then the next point is -6, -3. Oops, I skipped one. 1, -1. It's going to be somewhere about in here. And then the next one is -2, 5, somewhere up in here. And our shape's going to look something like this. Mine probably doesn't look all that great. But you do that, then what you're going to have to do is count, find the slope of each side. This was A, this was D, this is C, this is B. So you're going to find the slope of AD by counting. You're going to find the slope of CB by counting. You're going to find the slope of DC by counting. And you're going to find the slope of AB by counting. These two, if it's a parallelogram, they should have the same slopes. And then you're going to explain that. Since they have the same slopes, what do you know about those two? Then you're going to find the slopes of these and find the slope of these two, then explain that. And if they're the same, what do you know about that? And then you can tell whether it's a parallelogram or not. Again, that's problem 7. Number 8. Says determine whether this shape is a parallelogram. They gave you this. Look in your notes. In your notes, there was 5 ways we could prove something was a parallelogram. On this problem, everybody said, or a lot of people wanted to say yes or no, and then talk about parallel lines. We don't know that we have parallel lines here. What do these tick marks tell us about these sides? And then use that. So you're going to put yes or no, and then you're going to say because, whatever. You're going to say because, and it's not because opposite sides are parallel, because we don't know that. Number 9. Problem number 9. They say find the coordinates of the intersections of the diagonals of a parallelogram X, Y, Z, W with the vertices. First thing you need to do is graph it again. First coordinate, 3, 0. Remember that tells you to go right 3, up 0. So somewhere about in there, that's X. Then 3, 8. That's going to be somewhere up in here. That's Y. Remember, the first number tells you how to move left or right. Second number tells you how to move up or down. Then -2, 6. Somewhere about in here. And that's Z. And then W is -2, -2. So somewhere down in here. So we got this shape. We're looking for where these diagonals intersect each other. That point right there. Well, the rule you know is the diagonals intersect each other, or the diagonals bisect each other. They bisect each other in a parallelogram. Well, bisect tells us that this point right here where they meet has to be the midpoint. And if it's the midpoint, then we have to use the midpoint formula, which is this: x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. It doesn't matter which diagonal we use it on, because the coordinates are going to end up being the same. So you could use z and x together, or you could use w and y together. Figure out that formula, and that's going to give you your answer, the coordinates of it. Number 10. Given rectangle ABCD. This is number 10. So they're giving us a rectangle. It looks like this. B, A, C, D. They have the diagonals drawn in there. And they tell us that this angle is 3x minus 2. This angle is 6x plus 20. They want us just to find x. Well, if this is a rectangle, what do you know about that whole angle right there? It's got to be a right angle. If it's a right angle, then this and this added together, 3x minus 2 plus 6x plus 20, should equal 90. All they wanted you to do on this one was solve for x, so you solve that and that'll give you x. Number 11. First thing you should do is draw the picture. They say ABC, you want B, C, D to be a parallelogram. So we draw it. A, B, C, D. We want it to be a parallelogram. They tell us the slope of AB is 1/2. So the slope here is 1/2. Well, the rule that you should be thinking about, if the slope up there is 1/2 and this is a parallelogram, then the slope down here better be 1/2. And they do tell us that. They tell us the slope over here is -4. Well, then what do you know about the slope of this side over here? What's it have to be? And that's going to be your answer. Remember, if lines are parallel, then the slopes are the same. Next one, number 12. Number 12, they give us a rectangle again. This is A, this is B, this is C, this is D. They draw in the diagonals, and this is point E. They tell us that angle BDC, that's this angle right here, is 7x plus 1. And they tell us that angle ADB, that's this angle, is 9x minus 7. This is about the same as that last problem. What do we know about angle, or about one of the other problems? What do we know about angle D there? Well, if that's a rectangle, it's got to be a right angle. And these two have to add up to equal that. So 9x minus 7 plus 7x plus 1 should equal 90. They didn't ask us to find x this time. This time they ask you, so you're going to go down through here and you're going to have to find x, but then they ask you to find the measure of angle BDC. Well, they told you that BDC was 7x plus 1, so whenever you get x, you're going to have to plug it in right there and figure out that math, and that's going to give you your answer. Number 13, they use the same rectangle. This time they are talking about the diagonals. See, this is A, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is E in the middle. They tell us that DE is 6x minus 7. AE is 4x plus 9. Since this is a rectangle, some of the things we know that the diagonals bisect each other. but we also know that the diagonals are congruent to each other. So that means all four of these little parts of the diagonals have to be equal to each other. So the equation we can set up is 4x plus 9 equals 6x minus 7. You solve that equation, that's going to give you x, whatever it comes out to be. Once you solve for x, they wanted to know the length of segment DB. Well, segment DB is this, that whole diagonal. So if we find half of it, we'll know the other half, and then we're going to have to add those two together. So you're going to have to plug in here, and then double that to get the whole segment DB. Number 14, actually 14 through 20. Problems 14 through 20. They give you another rectangle. I'm going to draw this, give you a little hint here. Got the diagonals drawn in. Oops, that's horrible. Diagonal's supposed to come to there. This is P, T, S, and R. It's angle 1, angle 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Remember, that's not there. That's 9 and 8. And they want us to find some of those angles, all the ones that are numbered, I think. They tell us that angle 1 is 50 degrees. So this angle right here is 50 degrees. Well, these two together have to be 90 degrees. So you can find angle 2 there by subtracting 50 from 90. Once you also know that this triangle right here, these two diagonals these two half of the diagonals are the same. So this is an isosceles triangle. Well, if it's an isosceles triangle, then this angle and this angle have to be congruent to each other. So now you know angle 7 also. 50 and whatever angle 7 is, add those together, and you can find angle 9 by subtracting those two added together, subtract it from 180. Once we know angle 9, we can find this angle over here because they're vertical angles. We know angle 2. Well, angle 2 and angle 3 have to be the same because these two are congruent. So this top triangle is an isosceles triangle. So 2 and 3 have to be congruent to each other. Looking here at angle 2 and angle 5 are alternate interior angles, so they have to be congruent to each other. So you can find angle 5. Angle 5 and angle 6 have to be congruent. Same reason there's 2 and 3 up here. Angle 3 and angle 4, once you found angle 3, then you can find angle 4 because these two have to add up to be 90. If you know angle 9, you can find angle 8 because the two of them have to add up to be a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. They have to be, 9 and 8 have to be supplementary to each other. Next one, number 21. Says find the measure of angle PRS. Angle PRS, and they tell you the shape is a square. Mine's not much of a square. But in a square, the diagonals have to bisect the angles. Well, you know that the original angle in that square was 90 degrees, and if this is bisecting it, then you should be able to find that angle just by splitting that in half. Number 22. This is a rhombus. We had a property about a rhombus. They want to know this angle right here, angle 1. Well, what do you know about the diagonals of a rhombus? They come together to form what? And you can find that angle. 23, look up the property of a rhombus on 22. 23, they tell us that we have a trapezoid. This is a trapezoid. Mine doesn't look like a trapezoid, but and this angle is 135. This angle is 72. And they want to know the measure of angle D, which is right here. These two angles have to be supplementary to each other. So you could find angle D by subtracting from 180. 24. Choose a pair of base angles. I draw my trapezoid here. If these are my two parallel sides, base angles surround the bases, which are the parallel sides. So the base angles would either be these two together or those two together. So pick out the answer that helps you with, or is correct on that. 25. If the length of one of the bases of a trapezoid is 44, the median is 36, and the other base is 2x minus 10. So we got a trapezoid. Remember, the median's the thing that goes through here. And we have a formula for the median of a trapezoid. It's median equals base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. They tell us that the median of one of them is 44. Or I'm sorry, the base of one of the bases is 44. The median is 36. And then the other base is 2x plus 10. So it looks something like that. We're just going to plug in. We're going to plug in 36 right here. One of the bases is 44, so we're going to put it in for base 1, plus the other base, 2x plus 10. All that divided by 2. You're going to solve that. The first thing you're going to do to solve it is multiply both sides by 2. These 2's over here are going to cancel out, and that's going to leave you with 72. Over here you got 44 plus 2x plus 10. You can finish solving that, find out what x is. That's all they want to know, what x was. So when you solve that, that'll give you the answer. 26. The bases of a trapezoid, same thing. Bases of a trapezoid, that's the two parallel sides, are 12 and 26. Find the median. Well, we're going to use that same formula. This one up here, median, what we're looking for. So we'll call it x this time. X equals 12 plus 26 divided by 2. Figure that out, and that's going to tell you what x is on that one. And that'll be the length of the median. 27. Given the trapezoid with that median, which of the following is true? So this is a median, B, C, D, A, E, F. I'm not even going to read what the answers are. Some of the things you know, if this is a median, you know that these two segments are congruent, you know that those two segments are congruent. If it's a median, then you know BC plus AD divided by 2, that's the two bases, should equal whatever the median is, which is EF in this case. You also know that these two sides are parallel to each other. You know that the median is parallel to both of those. You know that these two angles are supplementary to each other. You know that these two angles are supplementary to each other. So that's a whole bunch of information. I'm not sure which one you need to get your answer. 28. Which of the following is true for all rectangles? Some things you know about a rectangle. You know that it has 4 right angles. You know that opposite sides are congruent. You also know that opposite sides are parallel. You know that the diagonals bisect each other. So that means all 4 of these parts and the diagonals are congruent. So that means all 4 of these parts are congruent to each other. You know that this angle has to be congruent to that angle. This angle has to be congruent to that angle. And all the way around. This one's congruent to the other 2 up there. That one's congruent to them. These 2 are congruent to the ones on the other side. We do not know that the diagonals bisect the angles. That's only for a rhombus and the square. Problem 29. Find the sum of the measures of the exterior angles of a convex 39 gun. We want the sum of the exterior angles of a convex 39 gun. It doesn't matter what shape it is. The exterior angles always add up to a certain number for every polygon. So if you want the sum, the sum of the angles is always going to be the same number. Hopefully you remember what that number is, and that's what goes in there.